Secretary Pompeo is our senior counsel for global affairs of the ACLJ, and we know that the news broke last night, as we've been discussing, from the Pentagon, that they are tracking a Chinese spy balloon right now over Montana, which is where one of three of our ICM bases, our nuclear missile bases silos are. What's your initial reaction to the news that the Chinese did this, and that the U.S. right now and the military's response is, we're just going to let it go?
Well, Jordan, that seems to me like a big mistake given what we've been told so far about what's really taking place there. The military is saying publicly that, boy, there's not a lot of information they can glean from this that they couldn't from a satellite. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. We should find out what it is they are collecting, what the Chinese Communist Party is doing in forms of collection. But even beyond that, this is a political statement. We've allowed now a Chinese aircraft to violate our own sovereign space. We have the ability to make sure that doesn't happen, and we should do that. I've heard Buck shoot it down. It should be brought down. We should find out what gear it has. We should tell the Chinese this is unacceptable. Very much, Jordan, like we did when the Chinese were spying from our consul in Houston, Texas, Thursday. We just said nuts. We're not going to let this happen. We're going to stop this. The fact that the administration is passively responding to another Chinese provocation has deep political implications for us going forward.
Yeah, I was finished up reading your book, which is a great book, folks. You should get it. Never Give an Inch, Fighting for the America I Love. It's by Mike Pompeo. Great book. You have a lot on China. Senator Blackburn said, and it's an interesting statement she made. She tweeted out today. She said, this so-called weather balloon, she calls it the CCP spy balloon, is as much about weather as the Confucius Institutes are about education. But this was a very bold move of the Chinese to do this. They're flying at 50,000 feet. This is the same as your Delta flight.
It's theirs.
And
there's no question.
They're just saying it's a weather balloon, which nobody believes. But that's a bold move for them to do this.
Yes, they're testing, Jay. You got it exactly right. And Senator Blackburn had it right, too. No, they're testing us. They're seeing what the response will be. Next time it'll be something bigger. Sometimes it'll be something with even more equipment on it. They are pushing. They have found that Vladimir Putin was able to push Joe Biden around. They saw what happened in Afghanistan. Right? This is another instance where the model of not giving an inch, the deterrence model that we had for 4 years, is so vital. And maybe this particular balloon doesn't have anything super special. Fair enough. Send a message to the Chinese Communist Party. You are not going to violate our airspace. You are not going to fly willy-nilly over Montana. You're not going to buy our land, American land, near our military bases. We're not going to permit you to continue to engage in economic warfare on the United States. This is essential for the protection of the American people.
I know, my buddy is the state auditor in West Virginia, oversees lands. They just put forward legislation to ban the Chinese from doing that in West Virginia, to buying up farmland. We now know, Secretary Pompeo, that your successor, Secretary Blinken, he was scheduled to go to China and meet with Chairman Xi. He's postponed that. I know that again, that's consequences of this action is what the administration is saying. Is that the right move, or should he go there and say, by the way, deliver a message like, while I'm here, we're taking that balloon down and taking all of your intelligence from it?
I think that's probably the right answer. I think he should postpone the meeting, cancel the meeting for now. By the way, there were many other good reasons not to go there and just have a gab fest. And this is the problem. It's not so much that he was prepared to engage, it's that I don't know what substantive there would have been come from the meeting, because we aren't prepared to do the actual things. We just want to talk and not act. Not only did they foist a virus on the United States of America, we know they were conducting espionage from their consulate. We can see every day you talk about Confucius Institutes. They're in our universities. What the Chinese respect isn't that you hold a meeting or you cancel a meeting. For them, that's just buying time. For them, continue to engage in their hegemonic intentions and their nasty wolf warrior behavior against our people.
I want to take Dan's call from Washington State on line 2. Dan, welcome to the broadcast. You're on the air talking to former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, thank you, Jay and company. Well, I'm a longtime supporter and retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and Command pilot. I served in Vietnam Desert Storm. I'm a retired airline pilot. First, airlines typically don't fly above 41,000 feet, but this is in the PCA, the Positive Control Airspace, that goes up to 50,000 feet. It is a hazard. It's a clear violation of our airspace. In my Air Force career, I was part of recovery of both U.S. and foreign spy satellites. We definitely do have the capability to safely recover this spy airship, now engaged in active surveillance and espionage. Finally, Secretary Pompeo is absolutely right. One major issue here is that this is called a probe and test. to determine our reaction and response to such incursions, and the Russians have done this for years over our entire ADIZ, so the Air Defense Identification Zone. So we must respond. A weak protest to a provocative act is not going to cut it.
So, Secretary Pompeo, if you were calling the shots on this, how would you respond?
The Colonel had it right. We cannot engage passively. We must be proactive. We should certainly demurge them. We should bring this down, whatever tools we need. I'm confident we can execute that. We should then display it for all the world to see. Once we've done the things we need to do in collection, we should make clear to the world what the Chinese Communist Party did to us and what they're likely doing in other places across the world, and begin to impose enormous costs on the Chinese Communist Party for their continued dangerous behavior. We see them. We confront them, their aircraft in the Taiwan Strait. We confront their aircraft in the Pacific. We have to make sure that they understand America is serious, and there's no statement, no demarche that alone is going to pull that off.
You just brought up the Taiwan Strait, and we know that the Philippines has now granted the U.S. military expanded access to bases because of tensions in Taiwan increase. We saw a memo from a 4-star general in the Air Force predicting war with China by 2025. Are the tensions, I mean, the American people would want to know this, reaching that kind of tipping point?
Xi Jinping has demonstrated his intent. We know his desire. He's stolen millions of jobs from the United States of America. Jay, you and I have talked about this. Billions of dollars in intellectual property. Yep. We've turned the other cheek, and that risk only accelerates if you're weak. An engagement philosophy that says, boy, there's places we can cooperate, we all just get along, will continue to empower Xi Jinping and those around him to reduce American space for our freedom. We can see this. These tensions are rising not because of anything the United States is doing. They're because of the actions of the Chinese Communist Party. And if we do not confront them, and the way Reagan confronted the Soviet Union, these problems will only grow more difficult as time goes on.
Secretary Pompeo, as always, thank you for joining us. Your new book is out, Never Give an Inch.
Great book.
It's a great book, folks. You will learn a lot from this book about threats we have faced and do face. And again, former CIA director, former Secretary of State, member of Congress, West Point grad, served our military, Mike Pompeo, our ACLJ Senior Counsel for Global Affairs. Thanks for joining us today.